So wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here with me. What time is
Thank
it
you.
where you are?
It is 5 minutes past 6 in the evening.
So it's
Sun's
evening for
just going
you.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's noontime here where I am on the East Coast. So it's fun. It's fun that we get to do this wherever you are in the globe, whatever time of day.
Yeah.
Welcome. And I'm really grateful that you tuned in with us. So, wow, what's coming up for you lately, Kerry? I know it's been a few weeks since we actually did the recording and it's released today. So for everyone watching, you probably already know Kerry's interview is live today for the next 48 hours. And so many interesting topics that we covered, but I'd love to hear what's been happening just
Right.
most for you.
A lot. There's a huge, I was just speaking moments ago to a friend of mine on the West Coast and two others on the East Coast. The four of us were on a Zoom call and we were talking about the galactics and we were having this wonderful galactic conversation. And all four of us shared how, in our own way, we feel absolutely pushed at the moment to share information from the galactics. It's always been there, Washayla. That's not new. I mean, you and many of your audience will know the galactics have always been in support of humanity. It's just right now, there's a sense of urgency, and that tells me something's coming. You know, we all get that feeling. My mom has a good word for it. She says it's an itchy feeling. And
Hmm.
what she means by that is, something. You don't know what it is. You don't even know where the itch is. You just have that feeling like something's coming to the surface. And that's where we are right now. We're in a huge portal right now. And I think a lot of people can feel that energetically. So the timing of your event is perfection. It's absolute perfection because on an hourly basis, there are new light codes streaming in. We used to have new light codes coming in once a year, once a month, once a week, once a day, once an hour. And in fact, sometimes it's even less than that. Sometimes it's every 10 to 15 minutes. So the amount of cosmic information that is being downloaded at the moment is off the charts. Bodies are obviously undergoing a lot of ascension symptoms. And right now, the most prominent ascension symptom that I'm noticing with people is the integration of the shadow aspect.
Hmm.
It's how do I claim the fullness of me? That's the question in the collective. How do I access those lost parts of self? So there's a tremendous focus right now on shadow work, which I think a lot of people misunderstand. Shayla, I think a lot of people hear shadow and they want to run away because they think, oh, that's the bad stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas the shadow is not the bad stuff, it's just the unclaimed stuff. So there is a huge spotlight on that between now and the weekend. There's a huge spotlight on the reclaiming of self, which is ultimately what shadow work is. If there's no misunderstandings and distortions in the way, then that's where we are as humanity. We are at that precipice of needing to step into our fullness in order to accommodate the new light codes that are coming in. And what's beautiful is we know this. We don't know it here, but we know it in the beingness, in the essence of ourselves. There is such an awareness of the itchy feeling, as my mom would call it, the building feeling, as somebody else might call it, that feeling of, I don't know that I can necessarily name what's coming in, but something big's coming in. And when it does, we'll never be the same again. So it's preparation for that.
Indeed, yes. It's interesting how synchronistic this is. I was literally just writing an email that I'll be sending out to my list tomorrow morning about I had a weekend in the northern woods of Minnesota for a wedding retreat that I was participating in both as a practitioner and a participant. But it was near sacred burial grounds. And there, I knew the minute I walked onto the land, I was going to be working more than I thought over the
Yeah.
weekend. But there's so much energy. There were so many ancestors, and many of them, the description that you said, that tingling feeling, I literally
Mm.
just got done writing, the air was buzzing. It was so full
There
of
you go.
presence, it was
There
like
you
this
go.
buzzing. And they were contacting me all night and then the next morning. And what I found was it's the same for the earth. The earth is bubbling up with
Mm.
the trapped energies, and they wanted the
So
whole
right.
circle to open up a portal and release these trapped energies, whether they are actual entities and beings, but also just energies that got trapped there for one reason or another,
Mm.
fragments, soul fragments, nature spirits. And I saw that these are actually, the earth is part of our body. We're not only doing the clearing mentally, emotionally, physically with our bodies, but the earth is an extension of our body, or we are an extension of hers. And so
Mm.
when we are aware of this work, we also must be doing the clearing from the land itself. And I feel like that right now is very much a part of what I'm being asked to remind people. Clear
Mm.
yourself, clear your stuff. And if you're a practitioner and able, also clear the land, clear the trees, clear the animals and the fauna and all the beings on the land, because it's time to release what's no longer
Mm.
needed here.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And we're all working together. Humanity, nature, consciousness. Consciousness is meeting consciousness. Earth human, galactic human. We're all coming together into a co-creation and a preparation for what is next for humanity. So I think a lot of people will watch the news and a lot of people will get easily distracted from what is literally right in front of them. And I hear people, and I'm sure you do too, I hear people say, oh, it's so bad at the moment. It's so stressful out there at the moment. I see that stress. You'd have to be blind not to see it, but it's a distraction when you can connect inside your being, not to a hope. It's not pinning a wish on something somebody else said, but a rooted knowingness that runs so deeply into you and through you. It's this immovable knowingness that things are better than they've ever been, more potent, more powerful than we could ever have anticipated. That's the era, that's the now that we're living in. So if we remove the distractions, not through denial, because that's a whole thing in itself. We don't want to go into cognitive dissonance. We don't want to go into denial. We can acknowledge, I see a lot of people in chaos, but I don't have to join them in their chaos. I can meet myself at that level of knowingness, at that multidimensional awareness of all the other consciousnesses that are working with us, the trees, the animal kingdoms, all of them coming together in union. This is the most profound moment on our planet, in our lives. It's the most profound moment. To be alive now is the greatest gift, and we all worked so hard to be here now. This is our gift. This is our prize, you know?
Yes, thank you for that perspective. And it's just so up for people to we get caught up in what's going on around us. The
Yeah,
air is thick, and
yeah.
what you're holding in your bubble is what makes the difference. And I feel, honestly, personally, I feel like an antenna for the earth and the stars. And what you
Mm-hmm.
said when you said it's time to have your roots be rooted in what's real, what's your truth, because to be rooted in the earth, rooted in the body, the root chakra, grounding it in. And then we become these antennas for the divine and for the galactics to bring more presence into our bodies. And the only way that there is a clearing for that is if we release what's in the way of that.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Yeah.
I haven't had to deal with this for quite a while, but when I was on the land last weekend, I had some angry beings coming in. They wanted to be cleared, and it scared me. Like they're frightening because they're big energies and they have a lot of anger and they have a lot of discontent. And it's like, okay, I'll work with you. I asked for a cohort and the grandmothers came to work with me. For
Mm,
me, I have to set boundaries so I don't get overwhelmed. And I think I'm saying
mm.
that for more so that other people know that's a possibility. If these energies
Yeah.
are coming at you and you're getting overwhelmed and
Mm,
you don't know how to sort through them and you're opening up, then ask for a representative
mm,
of the whole. Ask for one guide or one voice to speak to you so that you're not trying to
mm.
process everything all at once. And
Yeah.
I find that that's very helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. We don't tend to see ourselves as the miracle makers that we are. It requires an expansion of vision. And what you're sharing is you as a miracle maker. And I know that you're not going to walk around and you're not going to go, oh, I'm Shayla, I'm a miracle maker. But it's the truth of what you're doing. It's the truth of what each human being alive is either doing or capable of doing right now. You're talking about miracle stuff. You're talking about there you are on the land doing clearings, bringing in support, understanding where your limits are, working within those beautiful boundaries so that you remain respected. That's fundamentally important. The moment we lose that balance of self-honoring and self-respect, whatever it is that we were attempting, we've sabotaged. No matter how big our intention is, how big our heart is, that's where self-sabotage takes place. So all of that you describe is you living miracles as an earth being on planet Earth right now.
Mm.
It brings home to humanity the amazing role that each one of them can play. And they could do that in their backyard, with Shayla. What you were doing out on the land, they could do it in their backyard. And if they don't have a backyard, they can look out at the sky. They could do it in the skies then.
Yes.
Wherever you're called, it might be at your feet. Your vision could be looking down, in which case, work with that energy there. If you're looking at the sky, if you're looking at the land, work with what's right in front of you to work with. But each one of us is being called to step into that next level of awakening, the next level of activation. So it's a beautiful thing to see.
It truly is. And yes, every single person, it's time to call up your inner shaman.
Mm,
It's within everybody. I was in a circle of, we had 39 people there. Many of them have done shamanic work. Many have done, meditation and breath work. Some hadn't. And yet the guidance was every single person is meant to be here, who's here, and it's time to call up your inner shaman to do this release work, no matter who you are, no matter what your past experience is, no
mm,
matter how you frame yourself. If you think
yeah,
that person over there might be a shaman, but I'm not, we're all, if you're here and you're having these experiences and you're aware at all,
mm,
you
mm,
have a calling to call up your inner shaman and do this work for first for yourself,
yeah,
of course, but then for more than yourself, getting beyond
yeah,
yourself and working with
yeah,
it is all you, it's all us at the highest level. So
exactly.
we get called
Mm,
to do this work. And I think that the opening, the knowing, the understanding that is available to everybody right now, all you have to do is sit still and tune in and listen and know, just receive what you're meant to do. And I'm sure you hear this too. So many people right now are like, what's my purpose? What's my role in this process,
oh
in the
yeah,
ascension, in the
oh
new
yeah,
earth? And for me, I always have to say the very first step is tuning in and listening to yourself, your body. What does your body need to release? What do you need to let go of in order to hold more light? And then it just expands out from there.
yeah. You know, your purpose for everybody alive right now, your purpose is to be you as fully, as completely as you can allow yourself to be. Your purpose is to be you. because our definition of self was so narrowed, and we thought it was this that identifies with the name, whatever your name is. We thought, well, that's who I am, forgetting that we are this multidimensional, infinite being that exists at the Godhead and here simultaneously. That means a part of you right now is connected to and literally live streaming, in the truest sense of the word, God source consciousness. That's what it means to be fully you. That's our purpose. And each one of us has our own unique connection. So we don't get to say, oh, well, Shayla's done it, she's bringing God in, so wonder what the next person's going to do. We're all going to do exactly the same thing. We're all going to bring in the fullness of our multidimensionality into embodiment through the divine self that we are. So in terms of purpose, it might sound like there's this blanket statement, oh, we've all got the same purpose right now. And in a way that's true, yet it's so thoroughly unique for each one of us. But there's nothing out there anymore that we're supposed to be doing. It's all in here. It's all in here. It's all about the inner being. Connect with the body and the field of energy around the body, which is still you, and just be here and let that move you. Does that move you to the land? Go do it. Does it move you to sit down and be centered and be still and be rooted? Then do that. Wherever that energy directs you to be there so that you can be fully you. And considering that we're a species who was taught to be someone else, we were taught to be like pop stars, like movie stars, like people on the magazines. Men had to follow a certain role model, women a certain role model. We've been conditioned to be like somebody else. So we are flipping the script that was given to us at birth when we choose to reclaim our absolute core identity and be the truth of who we individually are. That's purpose.
Mm. So beautiful. Yes. And just like my heart's just like, exactly. And that, it does take in the beginning for many, many people, it takes courage to express yourself in that authentic, vulnerable way. I know when I first came out about being a contactee by extra dimensionals of many types, I cried. I cried when I put myself out there in that way publicly for the first time. It was really a difficult thing for me. Yet my inner truth said, this is what you must do to walk into your next phase of work. Now I'm doing summits on star seats, I mean, now it's just who I am. It's so easy. Like, but anyone that would meet me now, it wasn't that long ago. I was terrified to speak openly about these things because I don't know, I had an idea that it wasn't okay. And you know what? The tribe finds you. They form. If I wasn't, I'd be, hiding out. I'd be invisible, like I was for so long. Just doing it on my own little circle of people and quietly. And that it's not time for that. It's time to be open and courageous and whatever. Let your freak flag fly. It's time to just do it.
Oh my God, I love that. Did you just say that, your freak flag?
Yeah, I didn't make that up. That's a thing.
Cool.
Let your freak flag fly.
I've never heard it before. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're called to do.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's entrenched in the back of my brain right now.
Yes,
Oh
you're
man.
a
Yeah,
unicorn.
it is. It's let their colors fly. Absolutely. This is all about stepping into the truth of who we are right now. There could be nothing more powerful or more important than that. Nothing.
Yeah.
And people say to me sometimes, they say, oh, it's so hard. So they might say, it's really hard for me to let that freak flag fly or whatever it is. It's hard for me to express the truth of who I am. And you know what I say to them? It's harder not to.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
harder to pretend. It's harder to be who you're not. And the upkeep, oh, the upkeep on being who you are not is unimaginably difficult right now. In fact, the upkeep on being who you are not is no longer possible. And that's part of the crumbling that's taking place right now. The crumbling we are seeing in the chaos out there is also a crumbling or a dismantling of the ego and all that we are not, all that we are no longer. So, yes, it might be hard initially to step into the truth of who you are, but always remember that it's harder not to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Your picture froze. We can still hear you perfectly.
Oh, really?
But yeah, your picture is frozen, but it's a lovely picture. You're smiling. You look gorgeous.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
at least it was kind when it froze,
Oh,
right?
I'm so grateful because I've had moments where I've been like jaw wagging wide open and then it froze. So that's very kind, universe. Thank you.
Isn't it? Yeah, I want to comment on what you said about it takes more energy not to be your truth.
Yeah.
And, I had this very interesting interaction over the last few days with someone online who we have we have a lot in common. Uh-oh, okay. Are you still here?
Okay.
You want
Sorry.
to,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's okay. A lot in common, but there's an issue uh, that we have sort of opposing viewpoints on.
Right.
And interestingly, rather, I think the cultural norm is to sort of stand your ground and say, I'm right, you're wrong, and fight for it, right? There's this like political thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
but we consciously chose not to do that, but rather to be open and just listen to the other person, and like maybe there's something to learn here, and I believe when you have an opposing viewpoint with someone that that you're connected to, it's really a safe territory to be able to explore
Mm,
that expansion and
mm,
learn. And I believe that's where we're going. It's really the time of I think these things that are bubbling up politically, I mean, certainly here in the US, things are pretty hot right now.
oh, yeah.
Politically, we're moving into an election, and
Mm,
that's just the nature of things, but also socially on so many levels. And we there's this cultural tendency to fight it out, and I would love to challenge everyone right now, rather than to fight it out, or rather than to stand so firmly and this is how it is, this is the truth, and there's no other right way. You need to listen to me and my way. How
mm,
open can you be to, and I'm not saying you need to change your mind on anything, but just receiving, listening, and practicing trying to understand someone else's truth when it's
oh, yeah.
differing from your own.
Yeah. It's it seems so easy when you say it like that. It seems like, well, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing that? And the answer is because we're triggered. Society, humanity, we are so triggered right now that it's impossible for some to be in that allowing, open state where you are giving yourself permission to just listen. So it's like that expansiveness, because what you describe is an expansive state where you're saying, I don't necessarily agree with this person, but I'm expanding rather than pushing them away. I'm expanding my energy to meet them and connect with somebody with whom I disagree,
Mhm.
which is the beautiful opposite of this whole cancel culture thing that's going down at the moment. So back to the triggering, we could look at it and we could say, oh, people need to be less triggered, but the triggering is a very powerful thing that's occurred for all of us. Through being triggered, we are being propelled, we are being pushed into our own undoing, our own dismantling, the stripping away of the ego and the untruths, the you that you are not, is what you are triggered to release. And it looks messy, looks really messy while that's busy happening. But that trigger is a beautiful, beneficial process, because anybody listening right now will have heard you say, you know, why can't we all do that? Why can't we be friends? In essence, why can't we be friends? And their logical mind, I'm pretty sure from a logical perspective, would go, yeah, I wonder, because it doesn't make sense. Human behavior does not make sense right now unless we're heart-based, unless we're able to move beyond the trigger into the heart place and be, as you are being right now, Wishayla, be a living example of that, a living example of one human being on planet Earth who says, I'm willing to listen to somebody whose viewpoint I disagree with. I'm willing to meet them in that energy field and interact with them, not to change my mind, but just to allow an openness. So in essence, we're going to do one of two things. We're going to be in that triggeredness, or we're going to be in the openness that you speak about. And we will continue to be triggered until we're in the openness that you speak about. The triggeredness might not look like it, but it's eventually going to push everybody over into that openness, because by being triggered enough, there's an implosion that happens, and the breaking away and the dismantling of all of the old. It's interesting to see humanity do this, though. It's really interesting. If anybody would have asked me, how do you see this playing out? How do you see humanity being at that pivotal shift point at ascension? I would never in my wildest dreams have imagined it would look like this.
Yeah.
Who could?
Who could have known?
Who could have known? No, who could have known?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still perfect. It's still
I
totally perfect.
I would love to address that triggering aspect that you mentioned, um, because I think it's so important. This we start out in my ascension training program. We start out working with triggers because it's the first
Yeah.
thing you've got to be able to adapt with if you're going to evolve. Um, and I noticed about myself. So this is really like in the past. I probably would have been triggered by that interaction that I talked about, and
Yeah.
I would have had a feeling of being rejected, because there was the first expression was, I don't really want to interact with you anymore, from the other person. And I'm like, okay, I just sat with it. I'm like, you know what? And I just noticed, like, what does that cause me to feel? Because I'm not going to react. And, this is where we get to be mature and notice. If I were to react, it would be out of a feeling of rejection, of not being seen, not being acknowledged, not being heard, not being listened to, something like that, disrespected. And I listened to myself. What is this causing me to feel? And I noticed, you know what? I'm just feeling compassion. I'm just feeling like, you know what? There's somebody that has a different viewpoint than me, who's not interested in hearing my side. And that's okay, because that's somebody else. I'm not responsible for that. What I'm responsible is for this. And then after sleeping on it in the morning, we both decided, you know what? That's okay that we have different opinions. Let's continue the conversation, see where it leads. And there was an expansion for both people. And but it shows me what's possible when you do that work of clearing with yourself and take that responsibility. If I were to react negatively, it would be because I hadn't cleared something or come to terms with my own feeling of rejection, my own feeling of disempowerment, my own feeling of being disrespected from the past. And I've cleared enough of that now not to react negatively, but simply to view other people's viewpoints as spirit expressing itself differently through different people. Everybody's going to have their own way of being. And I think as a society, the emotional architecture of the new earth has to be founded in responsibility, number one, for our reactions.
Oh yeah. That's you just you said it right there. Responsibility for our actions. The moment we can do that, the trigger then becomes something that we get to introspect instead of project.
Yeah.
And in that moment, peace happens. That right there is the moment that peace took place.
Ooh,
Projection
I got
becomes
chills.
introspection. Am I frozen?
You are frozen, yes. I don't know what they're seeing on the live. I think a frozen picture. I'm just seeing a black box, but I can see there is a picture of you on.
Oh,
So, but we
that
can hear
is so weird.
on, you can hear, if I can have a thumbs up, you guys, or a heart, if you can still hear us, that would be helpful, those of you listening. Um, I think, I mean, I can hear you perfectly, so I think it's all good.
Okay. Well, so long as we've got voice, that's cool. So, if you can see me, that's fine. But if you can hear me, then that's all that we need. So the trigger was basically talking about how we move out of projecting outwards, introspecting inwards, creating peace. Now we've taken responsibility for whatever that trigger was, and we're allowing ourselves to move into acceptance. We then expand. We become the peace that we want to see on the planet. And then we stop asking everybody else to change. We stop telling them to get better and to change their perspectives. They will, they won't, doesn't really matter, because we become the peace that we want. So this is it. This is how humanity ascends. And it's the practical everyday examples that we get to look at. Like, for example, I'm triggered because, I don't know, somebody gave me the wrong sandwich at the checkout. Somebody said the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing, whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be important.
Yeah.
But the ability to just be with it, even if what you're being with is so uncomfortable and so disturbing, even if it's that, to be in the presence of that energy until peace happens. Acceptance is the remedy, it's the healing balm that so many people were looking for without knowing what to call it. And the moment we become, even if there are a few of us, we become living examples. The living examples ripple into the collective, and the collective wakes up one morning and says, I don't know why. I don't know why, but I don't feel like fighting today. I just suddenly want to be quieter. Like, they will never know your name, your face, where you came from, or what you did for them. But that's the power of each one of us alive, who's capable of being that example to humanity, taking responsibility for our triggers.
Yeah.
Very profound.
Very profound. Oh my gosh, thank you for that. And, I really want to dig into what you said about that inner peace,
Yeah, yeah,
because I noticed that for me, when I don't react, when I take responsibility for what's going on in here, and when I
yeah,
respond in love, from the heart, inner peace happens. That's
yeah,
where that it just there is that expansion and that alignment. And then what else happens? The world around me responds to that peace.
yeah.
So that person contacted me and said, hey, you know what, I do want to have this conversation, let's continue. and
Mhm.
um and the world
Yeah.
around me feels peaceful then, versus if we're in our triggers, the whole world reflects back what's going on in here. It's
Mm,
just the way it works. So,
mm,
yes, what we do, what we say, how we react and respond, it ripples out in the most amazing way. And you can always gauge how you're doing internally based on how's your external environment feeling to you,
mm,
treating you? How are you experiencing
mm,
everything beyond you in this moment? And if
mm.
you're not liking it, there's some work to do here
Yeah,
internally
yeah,
first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Self-work is
Absolutely.
not selfish. It's
Oh, no.
necessary.
Uh-huh. It's
Yeah.
That's your real service to humanity.
Yeah,
Your real service to humanity is the self-work that you do.
indeed.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, we have, well, this time has flown. Can't believe we're already 40 minutes past the hour. But Kerry, I would love to give you an opportunity to just mention your free gift and your special offer. Now, these are only available if you're registered for the Alchemy of Ascension Summit online, which is sent out daily. You have 48 hours to listen to each speaker and claim their gifts. And if you'd like to grab their special offer. Many of them are offering some really amazing deals, including Kerry. So I'd love for you to just share that with our listeners. And I'm sorry I didn't really get in and answer questions, but we do have a number of people listening and watching, and I just appreciate you all. We have Lehman and Chantel and Charlene and Anissa, who I mentioned, she's been with us the whole time. So hi, everybody. And I appreciate you guys so much, and the thumbs up and the hearts that you gave us. And so your free gift, meeting your future
Mm.
self. Would you
Yeah.
just tell us briefly about that, Kerry?
It's one of the most beautiful short courses. It's really short. It's possibly, don't remember actually, just over an hour, somewhere just over an hour. And it's an amazing investment of time because it allows you to connect with the you that has already accomplished whatever you might want to. It already has the answers. So, you know how we often approach an issue in our lives and we say, oh, I wish I knew what to do. Well, your future self has the hindsight that they can tell you what to do. So the connection with a 6-month future self and a 1-year future self is what that course enables us. And through the connection to the future self, it brings information to the body, it brings light codes to the body of things that are already resolved, and it brings it into the body space so that the body goes, oh, I know what to do now. And no, it might not happen in your head. Like you might not, some people do, but it depends on the individual. You might not get an instant thought stream that tells you, ba, 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 this is what you have to do, but you'll just get a knowing or a peace about something. And what's even more powerful is when you connect to that future self, you can feel that future self's essence, and it leaves you in absolute awe to consider, wow, that is who I am in the future. Like that's what I'm becoming. It gives you such a sense of wonder at yourself and your magnificence. So that's the free gift, is the future self gift. I can see loads of people have claimed it. I think that we're easily onto 100 people that have already claimed that. And the other one is an astounding course that I did. It was a lot longer. It was an 8-week course called The New Human. And The New Human was attended by, I think, just on 80 people. So it wasn't thousands. It was 80 people who met every week, and their combined energy and the teachings that came through are nothing short of remarkable. Nobody who attended was left unchanged or unmoved in any way. Everybody, myself included, was allowed a sense of who we are as the new humans that populate New Earth. So the New Human is a course that was $444, and only for you and for this event, it's $222. It's half price. So those who are catching this amazing offer can go ahead if they feel called to. They can also have a look at the page where it'll be where they're directed to. They can have a look at that page and not only read other people's experiences, but just a little bit more about what they can expect on that course. It was really something special. So whether they take the free course or whether they take the paid course, I know that everybody is going to get what they need, and everybody's going to get something that leaves them transformed.
Mm. Yes, indeed. Thank you for your generosity, and an 8-week course. that's an undertaking. So, I mean,
It was
that's
huge.
very close to a
Yeah,
giveaway at 222. It's a
yeah,
wonderful discount. Thank you for that.
yeah,
And you know, whoever decides to pick that up, just know that that goes away at the end of the summit. So don't hesitate. If it's speaking to your heart, then jump in now.
yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Kerry.
Thank you, love.
I'll end there. Thank you for going overtime with me, and I just
No
appreciate you
problem.
so much and the love and the openness that you bring. And this truly was a conversation about the new human, I feel.
Yeah, it was exactly, exactly. It's
Yeah,
what we're becoming.
completely relevant to what we're experiencing and what you're offering. All right,
Yeah,
everybody,
thank
thank you
you.
so much. There's some wonderful comments. I'll get back in later today, and if there are questions, I'll tune in. Kerry, you're welcome to also on the Facebook page. And with
Thanks, I
that,
will.
sending love to everybody. Love to you, Kerry, and namaste.
Thanks. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks for Shayla.
You bet.